The 7th annual Campus Ministry Conference we are having here. And as our guests, we have our brothers here. They're going to be introducing themselves, but we're going to be talking about faith. We're going to dive into our personal journey of faith. Welcome our brothers. If you can introduce yourselves.
Hello everyone listening. My name is Diakonat Asafa. Here, day 2 of Campus Ministry in Atlanta. I'm from Dallas, Deborah Brahan Kadisallase.
Hey everyone, this is Diakon Yosias. Me and my brother serve together at the same church, Deborah Brahan Kadisallase, the Holy Trinity.
Fun fact, they are twin brothers.
Yes, we do look alike.
Yes, you do. So if we can start off by just talking about childhood, where you guys grew up, and how you came to the United States.
Yeah, we were both born back home in Ethiopia. We were baptized in St. Tural Church in Addis Ababa, and then we moved here when we were about 2.5. So we've grew up in Dallas basically all of our lives, but always continued the church, always continued the traditions of the church and everything. But yeah, I grew up in Dallas for the last 20 plus years. Yeah.
So how was it like when you look at it in the lens of faith? When did you really start to focus on your spiritual life? Was it later on in your teenage years? Was it early on? How was that?
Yeah, that's a good question. I know everyone has a different journey. For my brother and I, almost pretty much it's similar. We were always in the church. We always grew up within the church. Our mom continuously pushed us to take us to Sunday school, to take us to Dase, the Divine Liturgy, all these different things, any programs that we have. Me personally, I think the biggest thing that helped was when the English ministry really started growing a lot. When we went to a few conferences with some of our close friends across the different states, from Dallas to Kansas or to other places, and seeing a lot of people that are my age who are also extremely interested in learning about who God is, what God has to offer in our lives, glorifying Him, honoring Him, praising Him, and all these different things. I think personally when I was more in high school, late high school, early college actually, typically when a time when most people kind of deviate from God or start going away from God is when I think both of us were starting to really push ourselves to get closer to God, learning who He is. And that's really our journey. We've always been close. We were always in the Samba Timitivate since high school. Enjoyed it, loved singing Mezmur, went to Kadase. But our real journey, I think, typically started in high school, college.
Like my brother mentioned, everybody has a different story. Mine really starts with our older sister. I was going to say my older sister, but it's ours. Truly a role model for all of us is our sister. Always pushed us, always gave us advice and mentoring in a way that really shaped our lives even till to this day. I remember in one of the bus rides that we were going to Denver. It was a horrible bus ride. We were stuck in the cold, in the rain. But before the drive actually started, she gave me a wonderful book. And in this book, it was just a journal. It wasn't anything special, really. But what was special about it was the meaning. And she told me, write everything you want in there. Write all the mezmurs you want to learn. And write how you feel about God and what you learned and all these different things. And, it just takes love and kindness, really, to activate something that was already inside of you, that was given to you by birth. And so that's where my journey really began, and it's grown ever since. Glory be to God.
Was that also in high school, you said?
Yeah, in high school is when I started getting more closer to church in terms of asking questions and really trying to connect with people and understand what this is and what that is and who this person is, what their contribution to the church was, and all these things. Really, advice I'd give to the youth, just starting out of the gate, is to be curious. A lot of parents, and God bless them because they don't know too much better, but when their kids start to ask questions that they don't know the answers to, like why do we do baptism and why do we take confession, what does that mean, and all these things, they get scared, with reason, of course. But it's good to be curious. Our church has all the answers. It's just finding that person who has that answer. It could be difficult, but we're getting better. We're getting stronger.
Yeah, that is true. We all have different paths. I came here when I was 17, so you guys came here when you were...
2.
Yeah, 2. So I experienced life back home, how it was, the faith, and then came here. My personal journey was that I became more, I guess, religious, started to go to church more often here when I came here. So some people is like the opposite. They're like more religious there, and then they're not really here. So it's the opposite for me. And I think one of the things that really helped me was the community that, actually the lack of community here, because I was in like South Virginia, that's where I was, and there weren't any Habashas. So I kind of was forced to go to church to find that community. And just by going there to be amongst the community helped me be closer to the church. Yeah, what about you, Tim? When did you come here?
Luckily for me, my journey within the faith, at least the startup, has been much easier. I feel like my parents were very, very involved within the church, and I feel like from a young age, it was always like church every Sunday. But the problem with that was that it became more of a routine. I didn't really see it as it seemed like more like checking off boxes honestly up until like COVID. For a long time, like of course, I understood, I learned the lesson. I was also able to teach some of my younger brothers and sisters, but it became until I actually understood what our church was actually about. It became more of a routine, more checking off boxes, more of is this something I have to do? Oh, it's Sunday, like, okay, I'll be here. Of course, I enjoyed being a part of all of the celebrations and all the things that were required of us, but it seemed more routine. But of course, after actually learning about the faith deeply, and not just the basic stories in the Bible of Moses and, of Noah and the ark that we all learn, I feel like once you actually get to allow yourself to deep dive is where your journey really begins. So I feel like that's
Do you
where it
guys
started.
remember like a specific moment, like a turning point? Like you said, maybe it was the journal, like writing the journal, but actually reflecting and writing on that journal. But was there a specific moment that really like made you think that I actually really need to take this seriously and focus on my spiritual life?
I mean, yeah, for me, like it sounds funny, but it really is that journal.
Yeah.
It's this journal. It's empty. It has nothing in it, but the possibilities and like the imagination and all the things that you could learn. The opportunity was right there. I think a lot of us, when we're given like these sort of signs or like kind of like small little revelations and things like that, we sort of dismiss it and we just think, oh, it's just a random text or it's just a random call or whatever it might be. But it's something that's needed for that. And for me, it was my journal. I still have it to this day. It's been like 5, 6 something years. Yeah.
That's a beautiful story you mentioned. It's funny. 17 years old, you come here, and then Sion, we go to church. We all serve together in the same church. I remember Sion when she was very little. She's grown now. She was so cute and everything. It's beautiful to see it. But going back to the question you asked, it's a very good question. For me personally, I feel like I've had 2 big experiences. One was the first time, Kasi Alamayo, they were a deacon back then, but first time we had English teaching in our Sunday school. Very small room in our very old church. We had a lot of fun in the Sanbet Timid
Very
debate.
humid.
It was hot. It's in Dallas, Texas. So I remember, for me, the hardest thing was the barrier of, obviously, language. I grew up in America. We moved here when we were 2. The only Amaringa that we speak is with our parents, time to time, and then you don't speak Amaringa at work, you don't speak Amaringa at school, any of this stuff. So that was the most difficult part. So it felt as if I was always outside of the culture. I was always, like, it was my mom's world or the older people's world and not my world. And so hearing a lesson Father Alamayo prepared in English, I still remember that was the first real subject I actually knew was about faith. Hebrews 11:1 it was very important teaching. I still remember it to this day. And every time I reference that Bible verse, I think of Asid Alamayo. I think of how much that meant to me. That was one moment. Another one was also another father at our church. He gave me my first Bible. That Bible, I've read more than half of it within maybe a year or so. I was very, very zealous to finish, to read, to learn. and I didn't realize what it meant. I'm like, hey, Cassis, I need a Bible. He took me under his wing. He's like, come here. I'm like, oh, what do you have? And then he just gave me this Bible, and it felt like, the world started opening up for me. So those 2 moments I really hold dear tight. It really kind of shaped me. And then obviously all the experiences I have with my friends, the road trips we took, seeing people my age, like I mentioned, wanting to expand, wanting to learn, it felt like I could do the same exact thing.
Was the road trips like to conferences? Or?
Yes. So English conferences, it was extremely new back then. Now, of course, we have so many, which is so beautiful. Our faith is growing in the English language. The English ministry is growing, which is important. That's what Mahabharata Kudusan is doing right now with this conference that we're here today. And so back then it was rare.
Yeah.
It was abnormal. Like, it wasn't like something that was done often. So to see that hundreds of other people, my age, younger, older, to come together, it was extremely beautiful, heartwarming, So yeah.
That's true. Were you both ordained deacon at the same time?
Yes. I think he was maybe 2 seconds before me or so.
Let the record show, I did go inside the Beit HaMakdash before he did. So there's a little seniority there. But yeah, the journey to deaconhood is, it's difficult with a twin. It really is. Because especially if you're competitive. I remember I would always study like when I knew my brother wasn't around because I didn't want to encourage him to study and be better than me.
Seems like it's new.
It was no, I think he did the same thing. I think if he was studying prayers and I would walk in, he would put it down really quickly so he wouldn't encourage me to do the same and get better than him and stuff like that. But that sort of spiritual competitiveness and jealousy is very much a beautiful thing. The road to becoming a deacon or just a servant in general is a serious road. It could be fun, of course, but the end goal is to encourage and change lives. The lives of those who they just started their journey. It's a beautiful thing. It really is. It's fun. It's exciting. It's new. It's great.
I love it. I must say though, what was your turning point exactly? Especially you said that in Ethiopia, of course you lived there for 17 years, but you said that your spiritual journey really started to grow here in the States. Where did that really start from?
I think it was, I don't think it was one moment, but it was multiple moments added up. I think the sermons that I listened to when I was at church, when I just kept on listening to those sermons, they all just kept on leading to the same thing, to the same path. So I'll say those moments. And one thing that I remember distinctly was that a father asked us, "Oh, so why don't you guys take the Holy Communion? What is holding you guys?" And I wanted to answer, "Well, I can't. I'm young, Isn't that like for older people or like little kids? I just can't." I wanted to answer that, but I didn't answer that. And then later on, I asked, "Can I take the Holy Communion? Is that like, can I really?" And then they explained that I actually can. Yes, of course. So like there was like the misunderstanding, I guess. And I was like, "Oh wow, I can actually partake of it." And then I really started to take it seriously. Yeah.
Wow, I love it.
What about you?
I feel like I kind of had the same thing. It was like many moments that kind of led up. Of course, my parents always telling me, especially on my way to church, on the way back, or honestly anytime I was in the car with them. Y'all know how Abisha parents are. But it was just that constant reminder. But I also do remember a specific sermon where Cassis Masfin gave us back when we were at our old church. I remember sitting there in our Mazmur lips. I'm ready to sing Mazmur. I'm tired. It's nigs. Like I'm ready for it to wrap up. And I'm waking up from my nap mid-sermon. I'm so serious. I'm waking up from my nap mid-sermon, and he's talking about, I think at the time, we were having some troubles within the church. And it was on not necessarily the verge of division, but there are a lot of other people coming into the church saying like, "Oh, maybe this isn't right," or "Oh, maybe we should try looking at it this way," kind of trying to draw away from our original teachings. And I remember Cassis Mesfin specifically saying like, no matter what, our church will always prevail, but obviously saying it in Amaranya. And that I feel like really stuck with me. And I think a couple weeks after, in March, is when COVID shut down and everything, kind of turned sideways and having to do Qadasi from home and all these things. And I think then and there was when I kept remembering what he said, like our church will always prevail, and no matter what, like trials or tribulations that might come to her, like she will always, rise above it all. And so I feel like that was definitely a time where I was like, okay, like I actually need to understand my faith. Like I can't just pretend to be someone that goes and serves, but doesn't fully understand what I'm here for. So that's for sure.
And one thing, like right now is the conference, a lot of them are students, right? College students. So if we can talk a little about your experiences as a college student, did you face any struggle? Did you had any challenges as a student? And how do you advise for other students to overcome those challenges?
I'll be very honest when I say I did not struggle much in terms of my faith in college. It was actually afterwards now that I feel like I'm getting a little bit more exposure, especially working and stuff like that, to a lot of different things. In college, I drove to my campus day in and day out, so I never dormed there or anything like that. So it was always just like go to school, come back, you're there for the weekend, so go to church and do work and all those other things, right? My journey was very different from most. I know most people dorm and they get exposure in that way. There is a lot of struggles, of course. Church will always, of course, prevail. The church is always there as a cornerstone, a rock to really keep you and protect you. I think if the students can remember that and remember that they always have a home to go back to, because that's what they don't realize, is they think they make a mistake and they're shunned, or they're supposed to not come back. We know that analogy of the church being a sort of hospital for those who are sick. That's exactly what it is.
Yes.
You're supposed to go there in times of struggle and rush there in times of need. And so if we could remember that as students, as youth, I think we'll definitely be all right. I think Diakon Josias also, he had a couple more things to add as well.
That's good. For me, I'll say I think college, from what I hear from a lot of people, it's a field of temptation where it's the time mostly, different from you, but most people get introduced to a lot of different things. The biggest temptation really is like your environment. And so most people don't know how to say no, or they don't know how to say, this is not for me, this is not permitted for me as a Christian. And so they want to continue to live a life where it might be normal to do such and such things, but it's a complete opposite of what the church teaches, what our fathers teach, which is a complete opposite of what the Bible is telling us. And so it's so normalized to sin when you're in college. They say, hey, you're young, you only live once, and all these different mottos that come out, and you feel as if, hey, none of it matters right now. Let me enjoy myself. I'm in my youth, Oh, nothing better than your 20s, or, being a teenager.
You only live once.
What was that?
You only live once.
Yeah, you only live once, But I think the biggest thing to understand is building your foundation is so beautiful. The earlier you are, the better. So Sion from a very young age built her foundation through her parents. Same thing with us. Same thing. Everyone's different. But building a foundation wherever you go is so important. So I remember hearing one time they said, "What's the best time to plant a tree?" Someone said 20 years ago is the best time. The first best time. The second best time is right now. So building a tree and building your foundation within the roots deeply rooted in God is so beautiful. Whether it's college, after college, or anything that you face. And so that's the biggest advice I can give. Read the Bible, ask questions. He mentioned, be curious. I think it's so important to find fellowship and friends and community, which is what our church has. Right now, what we have in this campus ministry, this Gubai, is people from all around the United States. It's so beautiful. You're from, the DC area, the Virginia area, other people from, obviously here in Atlanta, from Dallas, all three of us, and so all over the United States. And so it's very precious to have that community. Mm-hmm.
So what's one big piece of advice both of you would give to someone like myself who's going into their first year of college and is like, how do I live a spiritual life without having to kind of draw myself, or what's the best way to draw myself away from situations that don't lead me to have a spiritual life?
Especially when you're far away from your hometown and people around you are,
and quote unquote, no one's watching you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's difficult. Honestly, I would say read the lives of the saints. Read the lives of all the people in the Bible. I think we forget you don't have to specifically go through something to learn the lesson. You can learn that lesson from somebody else's story.
Yeah.
We learned yesterday that our Father was teaching us, Assis Harmon was teaching about St. Moses the Black, St. Mary of Egypt, of course Adam and Eve, so many different people who have sinned, who have lived a life where they departed from God, who've lived a life where they were also very far away. God was not quote unquote watching them, nobody was watching them, but God always is. And so I would say read the lives of the saints. There's so many lessons that we can learn from people who have lived this life previously before us, who no matter their starting point, no matter what they went through, no matter what kind of sin they had or temptation that they faced, same thing that we'll face in college, all of us did or we will, you can overcome it. You know, don't give up. Continue to raise up. Continue to go to repentance. Continue to come to church, and then continue your prayer. I know it's a lot. I think that'll help. That'll be a good starting point.
That was wonderful, wonderful advice by our brother. Another one that I'd like to add really is don't be too hard on yourself. Nobody is asking for perfection. Nobody's asking you to be a prayer warrior, as I've heard some people say. Just build relationships. You know, be interested, be curious, as I mentioned before, and try to better understand who you are. You know, a lot of people, they try to be somebody else, and then they go through something, and then there's just like they lose a whole sense of who they are. Be yourself. Everybody here is special. Everybody here has their own journey, their own tzedakah, their own grace, their own ways of serving the Lord, the world, really. So get to know yourself better. When people make mistakes or they're being encouraged to do things or peer pressure to do things that they don't want to do, it's because they lack an understanding of who they really are. They just want to be like everybody else. It's okay to be different. You know, our Lord was the most different from everybody else. Be yourself and go to church. Go to church. Always. Don't ever miss church as much as you can. Even if you go to church in the middle of exile, like you're late and you think it's not worth it, go to church. The fellowship will keep you safe. The fellowship will keep you grounded. Me personally, there's been many times in my life, many times, where I would wake up and it's already, Qadase has already started. Or it's already halfway through Qadase. Or they're on Mezmuna. I'm just super late or something. And I would think to myself, I can't go. It's already late. There's no point. And then something just like calls me in. Like I force myself to go, or my brother is there, or my sister texts me, and I go just for like an hour. The last hour I get a blessing. I say hi to everybody. I talk, whatever, and you just feel so much better. Don't miss out on those things, no matter what.
Yeah,
I love it. Very well said.
Yeah, and like earlier when you were teaching about the purpose of our life is to glorify God, right? If we can wrap it up with that message, if you can tell the audience a little bit about what you thought, glorifying God, the importance of that in our life, whatever stage we are, whatever we're facing, just a little bit about that, and then we'll be able to wrap it up.
Yeah. To wrap up, of course, the main conference for the main verse that we're here for and to learn comes from the book of Corinthians. St. Paul is speaking and he writes to Corinthians saying, whatever you do, glorify God. Whatever you do. Something as simple as eating, something as simple as drinking, something as simple as prayer. And so I spoke about glorifying God through your body, through worship, through all these different things. That's the most important thing. Our purpose in life is to glorify God. The reason why we were created is to glorify God. From the earliest of creation, from the first book or the earliest in Genesis, the first book in the Bible, to the very end of Revelation, it tells us that glorifying God is really our purpose of life as Christians, to bear the name of Christ. So that's the most important thing that we can do. May all the glory be to God for allowing us always to be together, to be happy, to be joyful in the good times and in the bad. May His name always be praised. And that's the idea that we have to have inside of our hearts.
Very beautifully said. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Of course, thank you guys for joining us for the beautiful session. It's been amazing. It's only day 2. It can only get better.
We're excited for day 3 as well.
Yes.
Yeah, so it's going to be awesome.
Yes. Thank you all for joining us in this discussion. It was a very fruitful discussion. I hope you all enjoyed it and learned from this discussion. Until we meet with another program, may God be with us all. Amen.
Amen.